Along the northern foothills of the Ile-Alatau, starting with the city of Almaty, for hundreds of kilometers there stretches a chain of suburbs and villages forming the larger Almaty agglomeration. Its population is about 3 million people. It hosts dozens of industrial and agricultural enterprises. In 1996, the Ile-Alatau National Park was created on a significant part of the Ile-Alatau. Its area is almost 200,000 hectares. The state border between Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan crosses its southern section. Today, our expedition is heading to the park's Aksai branch. A 15-minute drive from Almaty, and we're already in the office of the national park. Just imagine that this place is only about 20 kilometers away from the 2 million city of Almaty. We are going to the Aksai River. The highlands along it are really untouched wildlife. It's a rare case. Today in the expedition team, Alexei Granchov, head of the mammal laboratory of the Institute of Zoology. Zoologist and famous wildlife photographer Saltore Sapabayev. Zoologists, members of the Snow Leopard Working Group Maxim Bespanov and Sergei Bespanov. Baljan Baltasheva, outdoor world operator, and our host Maxim Levitin. Today we got lucky. The Outdoor World film crew was invited to take part in the joint expedition of the Ile-Alatau National Park and the Institute of Zoology of the Ministry of Education and Science of Kazakhstan. Together we will go to the Aksai gorge. And this here is the park's main symbol, snow leopard, although made of gypsum. Our research area is located within the limits of the park's reservation zone. In order to do research, we need to coordinate it with the management of the national park. We will now meet with the director of the park's Aksai branch to discuss all organizational issues. Janbulat Nurdauletov, the branch's director, suggests starting the tour at the visit center. This is where the tourists can get their first impression of the Ile-Alatau. As you know, our national park has 4 branches: Turgen, Talgar, Aksai and Medao branches. In our Aksai branch, we have mountain goats, take care, deer, wolves, bears, badgers, morals, and of course snow leopards. Within the branch's limits, based on track monitoring and with the help of video traps, we were able to identify 11 individual animals. Altogether, throughout the whole national park, based on visual checks and photo trap images, we registered 28 of them. The area of the park's Aksai branch is 58,000 hectares. If in total there are 11 snow leopards inhabiting it, then it means that the average area per one animal is about 5,200 hectares. For ibis, it's a rather high population density. In the Aksai forestry, where you are heading, there are 4 tourist routes. The first one goes to the castle built by a Korean a long time ago. The second one goes to Aksai village. Following the third one, you can reach the Skit monastery. The fourth one goes above the Coniferous Forest belt. We also have another tourist route across the Minjilki Plateau. Tourism in national parks has become the subject of active discussions in the media, inside the expert community and among the public. The government of Kazakhstan has adopted the state program for the development of tourism industry of the Republic of Kazakhstan for 2019-2025. Its goal is to ensure at least an 8% share of tourism in the national GDP by 2025. The plans under the program include the establishment of priority tourism zones and management companies in the 10 most attractive tourist destinations and implementing over 200 investment projects. The Ile-Alatau mountain cluster is one of the key areas for tourism development, although this idea has both supporters and opponents. Whereas some environmental activists oppose the construction of tourism infrastructure inside national parks, intensive tourism proponents point to the successful foreign models and experience. Just recently, the Outdoor World film crew visited the Merapi National Park on the island of Java in Indonesia. It is located on the slopes of the active Merapi volcano. Despite the relatively modest park's area, only 6.5 thousand hectares, several thousand tourists visit it daily, which makes it about 1 million every year. We are now on the slopes of the Merapi volcano, in the village of Potupi. There's a small museum here. Personal vehicles are not allowed on the park's premises, but one can buy a relatively inexpensive $50 car tour along the standard route. The excursion is about an hour long. During this time, tourists get a chance to walk through the jungle, take pictures against the background of the volcano, grab a bite in a roadside cafe, as well as get acquainted with the horrible consequences of the 2010 eruption. Back then, the powerful explosion covered several surrounding villages with ash and lava.
Этот бункер использовали в качестве убежища.
This bunker was used as a shelter during the eruption, but the project failed. During the last eruption, the 2 people who hid here died. By the way, it often happens that places of past tragedies become popular tourist sites. In fact, Kazakhstan has many such places, like the abandoned ships on the dried bottom of the Aral Sea and the Semey nuclear test site, attracting thousands of tourists from around the globe. From early morning to late evening, 200 Army Second World War stylized jeeps transport tourists along the same route on the volcano slopes. Vehicles come and go non-stop. Actually, we had to spend about 40 minutes in a restaurant nearby waiting for our turn. Instead of a jeep, you can rent a bike or even walk a special trail on foot. In the province of Yogyakarta, 1 million tourists flow for a park of 6.5 thousand hectares is an acceptable recreational load. Thousands of tourists cannot cause much harm to wildlife because they travel along 1 or 2 routes occupying a small part of the park's territory. Villages in the park's buffer zone are also tourist-oriented. There, tourists can observe agricultural works, go to craftsmen's workshops, see the traditional way of life as well as taste national cuisine. On average, one ethno-excursion takes from 10 minutes to half an hour, which is enough to get a general idea of how local residents live, take several pictures and go on. The setting should be bright and changing all the time. During the same trip, tourists want to see nature, culture, ancient monuments and traditional life, have a dip in the sea, wander around the jungle for an hour or so, and then eat a delicious lunch and spend the night in a comfy hotel. Tours with a dynamic and diverse itinerary are in high demand. Only by providing a variety of impressions and comfort, you can count on a large tourist flow and thus substantial income. There are also special tours. Certain tourism enthusiasts are indeed willing to live in tents for a week to have a chance to take a picture of a rare animal, spend days on horseback crossing a wild mountain range, or even a month climbing a mountain peak. Yet, special tourism has never been a mass phenomenon. Another example of mass tourism is the Grand Canyon National Park in the state of Arizona in the US. Its area is 490,000 hectares. About 2 million tourists visit the park annually. This recreational load seems excessive to us, but the US National Park Service considers it permissible. Wild animal and plant communities remain in stable condition because the recreation zone occupies only a small share of the park's total area. In some places, it's just a narrow lane not wider than a standard vehicle road. The park's tourist vehicles travel along it in a continuous stream. Tourists can enjoy the blessings of civilization like driving along good roads, living in nice hotels and dining in good restaurants, yet not bothering the animals inhabiting the park's protected area. While the tourist infrastructure in the recreational zone is usually owned by private concessionaires, there are strict limitations for the remaining park's territory. No roads, no driving, no cattle grazing, and even walking is allowed only along a limited number of strictly controlled tourist trails. But let's go back to the Ile-Alatau National Park. We are done with the visit center and cannot wait hitting the route. When you reach the Aksai gorge, you will see an environmental checkpoint. 10 kilometers after it, there will be another forestry and another checkpoint. After the second one, you will not be able to drive your vehicle, as our tourist zone ends there. The expedition is passing the first checkpoint. We need to show our permit and register in the checkpoint log.
Здесь последний инспекторский кордон.
This is the last inspector checkpoint. We will register and will move on shortly. Off-road time. The road is quite tough, but a good SUV will pass no problem. In a few kilometers, the road ends and further we need to walk. The Ile-Alatau peaks are whitening ahead. The Aksai River is quite rough and crossing it is possible only over the bridge. In the upper Aksai reaches, we bumped into the National Park's Ranger Group, Game Manager Nubor Sakenov and Inspector Norlan Dunchibayev. The raid's main purpose is protecting morals, but along the way, inspectors and game managers monitor animals and install photo traps. Last night, around 8:30, a bear came to our camp. We were at our tent camp and it came to about 10 meters away from us. Just imagine. Did it see you? Of course it did. How did you feel? It was kind of scary. When it walked past us, honestly, I got scared. We have a photo trap nearby. We can show what animals it was able to catch. In general, do you meet bears on your raids often? Are there many bears around? After the establishment of the national park, the area is under 24/7 protection. There used to be few bears. This is what the local seniors and shepherds told us before. Now there is enough of them. What about snow leopards? We do encounter them, though rarely. The photo traps catch them more often. Why do you need this metal protection here? It's against animals. Still, bears rip it off. Sometimes people steal it. These photo traps are brand new. The UNDP has donated them to us. Partnering with the government of Kazakhstan on biodiversity issues, the United Nations Development Programme has handed over the photo traps to the national park. The World Wildlife Fund is also assisting in studying and preserving rare animals. The International Union for Conservation of Nature has a special program aimed at preserving the snow leopard in Central Asia, which includes various research expeditions. The last time I was here, in the 80s of the last century, there were a lot of roe deer around. Now there seems to be fewer of them. Previously there were practically no morals here. Morals started reproducing and the roe deer population shrinked. Does it mean that these species compete with each other? Yes, to some extent. Photo hunting is similar to regular hunting. It's as exciting, guessing whether the photo trap got something or not. No way you can bite it through. A morale passed here. And a boar. Yes, definitely a boar. Just look at its size. In winter, mountain goats take care descend into the forest zone, and in summer they go up to the alpine belt with fewer insects and juicier grass. It's not by accident that they call snow leopard take care shepherd. It strictly follows the movement of alpine ibex herds. This is a stone marten. It's a red-listed animal. This here is a badger. And here is another morale. Meanwhile, the expedition members are setting up the tent camp. The main thing is to find an even and flat patch of land. Otherwise, an accidental stone will be taunting you all night long. It's about 3 hours before sunset, just enough to quickly fix dinner and rush for the evening observation session. Aksai is briefing the team. The data obtained as a result of the expedition needs proper structuring and processing in a consistent manner. Go to the next GIS application for smart monitoring of snow leopards. Are all there? In the upper right corner you will see a human-looking icon. Click on it. This is how we start the tracking. Modern navigation applications ease the work with big data flows. A field researcher enters into the program all the data on animals, livestock and landscape. After that, by manipulating the data layers, it is possible to pinpoint complex ecological links between different components of the environment. Everything is ready. We can start the tour.
Вот это вот заросли аконита, это очень ядовитое растение.
This here is Aconite, or wolf's bane, an extremely poisonous plant. The Jungar aconite is the most widespread. This one here is not it. It's called forest aconite. It's also poisonous, but cattle willingly eat its leaves, the above-ground part. It's a historical fact that Socrates was poisoned with aconite. After being sentenced to death, he had the right to choose the way of mortification, so he chose aconite. He ate its roots, surrounded by his students, and described the poisoning symptoms. Aconitum is a very popular medicinal drug and is used in homeopathy. Although modern medicine does not recognize homeopathy, nevertheless, many use aconite as a cancer treatment. It was very popular in the 70s and 80s of the last century.
Годы это было очень модно. Ну и, конечно, знаменитая яблоня Сиверса родончанина.
And of course, the famous Sivers apple over there. It's also listed in the Red Book. Here in the Ile-Alatau, you can encounter it in every gorge. Like all environmental tourists, we want to see wild animals. It's only possible during early morning and late evening.
Вот смотри, Лёш, я здесь был в начале...
Look, Lasha, the last time I was here in the early 80s and there were no morals at all but a lot of roe deer. Bears were also quite rare. We saw their tracks only here and there. Boars, the same. What do you think are the reasons for such changes? The number of some species is growing and their habitat is expanding, while others are growing smaller. What's happening? Is it nature or human pressure? Yes, indeed, in the 80s there were practically no morals in the Aksai gorge. The reasons are many, but the main one of them is the human activities in the area. The largest animals suffer from them the first. Why was there a lot of roe deer? Because roe deer occupied the morale niche, as the latter were already exterminated here. During the last 30 years, this area has been under active protection thanks to the national park status. So morals simply returned to their former habitat and occupied their previous niche. The second reason for fewer Siberian roe deer is that its main habitat, the Ile-Alatau foothills, is undergoing intensive human development. Almaty is growing. New communities are appearing around it. Environmental impact assessment is the procedure of analyzing direct and indirect environmental impacts of economic activities, including tourism. The norms of permissible recreational load are different in different countries, as well as depend on terrain, landscape, and economic and social conditions. Global climate change can also affect mountain ecosystems and animals. We all know that global warming is taking place. While earlier, in winter we had a lot of snow, at present there's practically no snow until February. Then in March, April, the snow here is waist deep but melts really quickly. Another question for you, Aksai. The number of people in the mountains has been growing over the past 20-30 years. Yet, there are examples of US and European national parks with thousands and thousands more visitors. The Yellowstone, for instance, receives 3 million visitors a year. What do you think about tourism? Does it help nature conservation or impedes it? Yes, indeed. The Yellowstone National Park is a success story of wilderness conservation. In fact, many other national parks have applied this model. How can tourism and nature conservation work together? Because in the Yellowstone National Park, only 15% of its territory is reserved for tourism. The remaining 85% are untouched and wild, and animals feel themselves very comfortable there. Catching sight of a wild animal in the mountains from a distance of 500 meters requires certain experience. The scientists are carefully scanning the opposite slopes with their binoculars.
Первый раз барса.
For the first time, I saw a snow leopard in 2012 while working in the Almaty reserve. I saw its head in my camera lens. I told Altenbeck, my partner that time, about it, and we started sneaking up to it immediately. The second time I took a picture of a snow leopard in 2018. The third time it was last March. In fact, there were 3 of them, an adult female and 2 kittens. So Altenbeck and I started approaching them. They did notice us, but could care less, and had spent the whole day lying in the same place. Every once in a while, they would climb the rock nearby and then go back behind it. Roe deer prefer staying in the foothills, but sometimes go up to the forest belt zone and even higher, to alpine meadows. Coniferous forests are morels' favorite habitat. During the day, they hide in shady thickets and start grazing in open meadows at sunset. Humidity is of great importance for morels. There is a theory that the current increase of morel population has to do with global warming. Glaciers are melting more actively, rivers and streams are filling up with water, and the overall humidity in the mountains is thus growing. For morels, it's an advantage.
Salto-rare. Смотрите, что...
Salto rare, look what I have found. Are these morel antlers? Yes, they shed them every spring. Can I take them with me? In principle, why not?
Их сбрасывают, потому что им тяжело.
Do they shed them because it's too heavy for them? Evolution made it so. Only males have antlers.
Они этими рогами от
Do they use them for self-defense against predators? Sometimes. Most often they need them for mating tournaments. If ibexes are masters of rock climbing, then snow leopards are true virtuoso and world champions in this sport. They pursue their prey on such steep cliffs that it seems that no living creature has a chance of escaping the strong, fast and slick predator. Yet for snow leopards to successfully hunt mountain goats, their number should be high enough. In other words, the well-being of snow leopards and mountain goats is inseparable. In mountain ecosystems, snow leopards fulfill the role of sanitary keepers. Excessive mountain goat population density threatens the population with epizooties. There were cases when the number of ibexes in certain gorges grew too high and choreoptosis or scabies epidemic destroyed most of it. Due to that, snow leopards left such gorges too.
Снежный барс не только очень красивый зверь, но он таинственный.
Snow leopard is not only an extremely gorgeous animal. There are many mysteries, myths and legends associated with it. It carries a sacral meaning, yet it's very poorly studied. In the Soviet time, not a single zoologist assumed the work of studying snow leopard professionally, because it was unpromising. Encountering snow leopards in wild nature is very difficult, and most often it happens by accident. So it was impossible to write and defend a thesis about this animal. Nevertheless, a certain amount of data got collected. The situation had changed in the 2000s, when modern equipment appeared, photo traps in the first place. It was then that the scientific and public interest towards this animal grew. It's one of the main symbols of Kazakhstan. The international community is also assisting us in these efforts. Different scientists gave different estimations and could not agree among themselves. Modern technology and new research methods allow obtaining most accurate data.
Уже более 10 лет мы занимаемся этой работой.
For more than 10 years, we have been studying snow leopard in the vicinity of Almaty city. Whereas 10 years back, it was only science-oriented and the work was done under the initiative of the Institute of Zoology, today the public and international organizations are also showing interest in this issue. They are helping us in our efforts to preserve snow leopard. To name just a few, it's the International Snow Leopard Foundation, which has its representative office in Kazakhstan. It's the UNDP, as well as the International Union for Nature Conservation, implementing the Save Our Species program, not to mention experts and researchers literally from all over the world. We need to go back to our camp to have dinner and get some sleep. A hard hike up to the mountain ridge is awaiting us tomorrow. We will be checking the photo traps installed under the Kingdom of Snow Leopard project during the winter expedition of the Snow Leopard Foundation.
В первую очередь мы ищем следы присутствия снежного барса.
First of all, we are looking for snow leopard tracks. We follow them. It's called tracking, and look for good locations for installing photo traps.
Фотоловушек.
Барс, можно сказать, сам показывает хорошие места.
You can say that snow leopards show us the best places themselves. We assess them and decide where to put the photo traps, so there is a nice landscape in the background. Finally, we've reached our target. An animal track runs along the ridge. This is exactly where the photo traps are installed. A snow leopard showed us this trail. We just followed its fresh footprints. That's it. A great shot. It's walking right up to the camera. Who? A leopard. Probably a male. It's in pretty good shape. Indeed, it's well fed. Wow, look, its snout is covered with blood. Can you identify it by the spot pattern? Yes, we can. A little lower, there is another camera. It should have filmed it from the other side. Its paw is probably the size of that of a tiger. Look at the blood right on its head. Maybe it fought a rotting fight. Might very well be. Snow leopards love silence. They're usually silent themselves too, and only during the mating season, males sing love songs that a human ear would not hold very much melodic. Yet for a researcher, a snow leopard shout is the best music, because out of the 8 billion people living on Earth, only dozens have heard these sounds. Even more luck is to catch a shouting snow leopard on video. Many people think that snow leopards live only in the alpine belt, where the snow is, right? This is why it's called snow leopard. It should live where there's snow. And here we see it in the midst of a coniferous forest. How often does it happen? Several years of research do confirm that it can descend pretty low, down to 1,500 meters above sea level. Another large animal lives in this edge, bear. You can see the top of the Aksai peak. It's a bear female with its cubs. Look how playful they are, like on the Three Bears chocolate bar. They were born in the den and came out to play with their mummy. And this is probably their daddy. It doesn't take any part in their upbringing. In fact, a mother bear carefully hides her cubs from their father because it could have its own children for lunch. Cannibalism is a common phenomenon in bears. Such behavior seems very cruel to us, but for bears as a biological species, intra-species aggression is an evolutionary survival mechanism. Adult males ward off young ones from their feeding plots, forcing them to go to distant areas, searching for food and free space. This evolutionary strategy allowed bears to populate all suitable terrain zones on 4 continents except Antarctica. Although lynxes and leopards belong to the same cat family, the relations between them are by far friendly, as they are irreconcilable food competitors. If a snow leopard notices a lynx on its plot, it will surely attempt kicking it out. Judging by the video, though, it's not always successful.
Сегодня нам очень повезло. Мы проверили всего 3 ловушки.
Today we got really lucky. We have checked only 3 photo traps, and each of them had recorded at least 5 approaches by snow leopards, not to mention other animals. These videos provide a lot of information about snow leopards' nutrition and behavior. In addition, with the help of these videos, our scientists will try attracting even more attention to the issue of preserving snow leopard and engage even more people in these efforts.
И как-то привлечь их на свою сторону.
In general, the attitude of Almaty residents towards snow leopard is positive, and we hope that, like us, every citizen of our country will be civic-minded and will contribute to preserving this gorgeous and unique animal. The Outdoor World team fully agree with the opinion of our young scientists. We are proud to have the opportunity of participating in their expeditions to the mysterious and beautiful world of the snow leopard, one of our main state symbols. Stay tuned, many more adventures, secrets and mysteries are lying ahead of us.